Good morning, students. Today we'll do lesson 3 animals, feeding and movement, the short question answers along with keywords. Now, before starting with the keywords, we will quickly brush up what we have learnt in the chapter. You all remember in the previous video which was sent about the chapter that first of all we read about the different feeding habits of animals, that is herbivores, carnivores, omnivores, scavengers and decomposers. Then after that we learned about the different feeding methods which included chewing the cud, tearing of flesh, gnawing, swallowing and sucking also. Then lastly we studied about the food chain, in which we saw that the plants are being eaten by animals and these animals are further being eaten up by the other animals. Now we'll start with keywords of this chapter. Now before we start with the keywords, it is very important to tell you that the keywords of this chapter carry examples along with them, and it is important for you to learn the examples along with the keyword because the examples also carry marks. So remember, you have to learn the examples also, and the important points in the keywords have been underlined so that you know that this point has to be mentioned while writing down the keyword, otherwise it will be incomplete. Okay, we'll start with herbivores. Now, the first keyword herbivore, animals that eat only plants, grass, fruits, and vegetables. So, the important point is that the animals that eat only plants, grass, fruits, and vegetables, all these come under the category of plants only. So, the example is cow, rabbit, goat. We have mentioned 3 examples. So all of them, they are herbivores. They eat only plants, grass, fruits and vegetables. Now the next keyword is carnivores. Now carnivores are the animals that eat only flesh of other animals. So this is the important point, that carnivore animals, they eat only the flesh of other animals. So they do not eat plants. So they are eating only what? Flesh of other animals. Hence they are known as carnivores. For example, tiger, crocodile, wolf. So even if you understand the word carnivore, carn means flesh and vores means eating. So flesh eating animals. I hope you have understood carnivores. Now the next keyword is omnivores. Animals that eat flesh of other animals and plants both. So there is not only flesh or only plants, it's they eat the flesh of other animals and plants both. It means they are eating flesh also and they are eating plants, both of them. So this is important. So hence they are called as omnivores, and the examples are bear, crow, dog. You have seen that if we put meat, a piece of meat to dog, it will eat that also. It even eats, you could say, bread also, and it can even have milk also. So dogs are omnivores. Even human beings are omnivores because people are vegetarian or non-vegetarian also, and even so human beings come in the category of omnivores. So eating both flesh of animals and plants, both of them. Now comes scavengers. Scavengers that eat the flesh of dead animals. So those animals which do not eat another animal as such, but only the flesh of dead animal. So they are not hunting the animal by themselves, rather they are eating the what is left by a carnivore animal, the left out of the feed of a carnivore animal. That is what these scavengers feed on. So they themselves do not go for hunting, or they do not hunt another animal. They do not act as predators. They rather depend upon the remains left after the feeding of a carnivore animal. So it is very important to mention flesh of dead animals. That is why dead animals has been underlined. And the example is hyenas and vultures. Now both of them, they are eating what is left out from the feed of a carnivore animal. Now next is decomposers. Animals that decompose the remains of dead animals and plants. For example, fungi and bacteria. Now the important fact is, first of all, they decompose. And what do they decompose? The remains of dead animals and plants. So dead animals and plants are what they act on. And what do? They decompose them. So they are breaking down the complex dead animals and plants into simpler things by breaking them down or decaying them. That is what is known as decomposing. So decomposers act on the remains of dead plants and animals. Example, fungi and bacteria. They both are present in the soil and they decompose these dead animals and plants. So these are the two examples of decomposers. Next is food chain. The chain formed when plants are eaten by animals and then these animals are eaten by other animals. So food chain is a chain which is formed when we always say that food chain, it starts with the plants only at the lowest level. So when plants are eaten by animals and that animal is further eaten by another animal. Now example is given, grass, which is a type of plant, it is being eaten up by grasshopper and grasshopper is further being eaten up by a frog. So this is a small food chain which has been shown to you to understand. So plant eaten up by animal and that animal eaten up by another animal. This is known as food chain.